welcome back to the Earthdawn Survival Guide, the podcast for all disciplines, paths, players, and game masters, and the questers that are Josh and Dan. I am Dan.
I am Josh.
And on today's podcast, we'll be discussing all things aeronautical, part 2, because we're going to talk about the higher circles of the air sailor.
That is correct.
And we just actually came across some really interesting details about our air sailor part 1 episode.
Yeah. Way back in episode 9 of the Earthdawn Survival Guide.
And we're now 104.
We are now at 104, so almost 100 episodes later, but also episode 9 originally dropped late January of 2020, so almost exactly 2 years to the day.
Mm-hmm.
This episode drops the 19th of January of 2022, whereas part 1 dropped
22nd.
The 22nd of 2020. So that's about as close as you can get with our Wednesday release schedule.
Almost like we planned it.
Almost like we planned it. But anybody who has stuck with us here through the last 100 episodes since then will know that the extent of our planning is we have a list of what we're going to talk about. Dan does a little bit of research. I show up and I'm like, what are we talking about tonight, Dan? And he tells me and I go, okay, great.
We wing it.
And I wing it. You don't wing it. I wing it. You actually, you do some prep. You make notes. You do work that is greatly appreciated. But yeah, it's almost as if we planned it. But in this particular case, it just so happened. Like just before we hit record, I'm like, hey, should we look up what episode part 1 was in case somebody wants to go back and re-listen or hasn't for some reason listened to that first episode?
Wants to bridge the two, yeah.
Yeah, we're like, yeah, sure, let's look that up. And we look it up, episode 9, and I saw the date, and I plotzed. I was like, this is cool.
I agree.
So anyway.
Yeah, all kinds of good stuff. So we're going to go over the air sailor again, and I'm going to have Josh give us a quick 3-minute recap on the overall themes and motivations and whatnot of the air sailor so that we can, as we get into the Warden talent options and the circle steps and everything else you can kind of see where the progression continues.
Right. If you want more in-depth discussion of this sort of thing, then absolutely go back to episode 9. Listen to it again, even if you've listened to it before. Unless you're mainlining the show, it's been a while. Unless you are doing some kind of marathon, for which I say bless you.
And seek help.
It has been a while since you have probably heard that episode. And we go into a lot more depth there. And that's where we sort of begin like some of our pop culture reference things. And
yeah,
this is like a little bit of a trip down memory lane. Anyway, the air sailor as a discipline, the core themes that it kind of revolves around are teamwork. And particularly as you get into the higher circles, the Warden and Master tiers, at that point you are going to be dealing with officers of airship crews. And so leadership starts to appear as a theme, but also movement, thematic connections with elemental air. Combat is there, but unlike the Swordmaster or Warrior or other Durability 7 sort of more combat-focused disciplines, the air sailor is a specialist. And so while they do have some combat tricks, combat is kind of a secondary theme for them. But they have kind of social, teamwork, organizational themes that are involved with their design. One of the other things that I want to mention, I was kind of talking about this with Dan before we hit record. There was a lot more work that ended up being done on the higher circles of the disciplines for the companion than was done for the player's guide for a couple of reasons. One was that working on the player's guide was more a case of things were already pretty solid in some regard there. The disciplines, there were some changes in terms of what became available to talents. There were some talents that were combined. There were some new talents that were created. But for the most part, the stuff that existed in those first 8 circles, the Novice and Journeyman tiers, was already fairly well established by previous editions, and it was more a case of maybe tweaking or refining or adjusting things to fit those themes better. When you get into the higher circles, into the Warden and the Master tiers for all of the disciplines, things were in some ways a little bit less balanced. You had some disciplines that had really strong theming and talents that were included in their progressions going back to the earliest days, and some disciplines that did not. A lot of their higher circle choices, whether in first edition or third edition or whatever, a lot of times ended up being, we'll give them a talent that is available to another discipline at a lower circle. And so a lot of their stuff just kind of felt like distilled or rehashed and nothing that was particularly special or strong or unique for them. We may come across some of that here. I kind of wanted to present that as a thing, and we'll call it out where it's particularly notable. I have not gone back and looked at the higher circle stuff available in the original editions for Air Sailor, and probably won't for any of the others, to be perfectly honest. But a real effort was made on Morgan's part, because he did a lot more of the work on the higher circle stuff than he did on the lower circle. That was more my stuff, where I was incorporating the broader rules changes in terms of successes and whatnot into the rules mechanics. But really making an effort to continue the theming and the design goals for the disciplines, and to provide each of the disciplines, whether in a couple of talents or special powers or anything like that, to really make their higher circle stuff stand out and be special and or unique in some capacity. So hopefully we will see that and we will call those out as necessary.
Absolutely.
With all of that said, as a precursor, introduction, preface, choose the appropriate word, I will hand it over to Dan.
Fair.
To continue.
So let's get started with the Warden stuff that you get. So all the disciplines at 9th circle get their own new unique ability, and then a whole bunch of, talents and karma and blah, 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 so forth and so on. So let's just start with a new 9th circle ability that the Air Sailors get, aside from their talents. And the first one is coordinate attacks. And any harried penalties caused by the adept working together with their allies, other Air Sailors or otherwise, are now increased by 1. This does not affect harried penalties caused by spells.
Right. This is the idea that if you have a group of Air Sailors that are ganging up on a target, and that's sort of harried by surrounding them by having 4 or more opponents, depending on the circumstance, then the penalty from doing that goes up, because a high circle Air Sailor has the sort of ability and the coordination and the teamwork aspects to basically make those penalties nastier.
Yeah.
And that's right in theme for them. And it doesn't require all of the individuals to have the ability. It's just the Air Sailor has that ability to bring out that aspect of their group's ability to work together.
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't have to be Air Sailors. It is an Air Sailor and their chosen allies, their crew.
Yeah, the rest of their traveling party, whoever they may be. They also get a karma bonus, which is that they can spend a point of karma on any recovery test.
This is something that's available at lower circles to some of the more robust disciplines. Air Sailors do have combat as a secondary theme, so they get that aspect here now.
Yeah. And then they get lasting impression as their 9th circle discipline talent, which we've covered beforehand because that's a lower circle, I think.
The Troubadours, I think Troubadours get it. Yeah. A couple of other disciplines might as well, but we're not going to go into much depth on the talents that are in the player's guide because we've covered them as part of one of the discussions of other disciplines before.
Yeah,
we're really going to focus more on the
all episode.
The stuff that's in the companion, the new, the interesting.
Absolutely. At 10th circle, they get a plus to their social defense, now at a 2. They also get an initiative bonus as well, finally, +1 there. And their 10th circle discipline talent is Thought Link, which is that little mental telepathy between them and someone else going on. At 11th circle, they get a +1 bonus finally to their Mystic defense. And they can now spend a point of karma once per round on an action test when made adjacent to an ally. So building upon that teamwork theme, again, at 11th Circle, should someone be lucky enough to get there. But this is the new one. Their 11th Circle discipline talent is Lion Spirit.
Lion Spirit becomes available at this tier for a number of disciplines. For the most part, if a discipline gets Lion Heart in Journeyman tier, most of them get access to Lion Spirit either as a discipline talent or an option at the Warden tier. What Lion Spirit does is simply provides their rank in Lion Spirit as a bonus to their Mystic and Social Defense against fear and intimidation.
Ooh.
One of the things that we will also start seeing as we look at some of these higher circle talents is fewer, I don't know, I'll say a lot, but there are fewer things that have their own tests that roll, and a lot of these just add bonuses to lower circle stuff to make it more potent in some way. So this just on its own, without doing anything extra, there's no strain cost, there's no roll, it just simply boosts the adept's defense against fear and intimidation.
Nicely done.
And if for some reason they still get targeted by it, they still have Lion Heart, which allows them to make an additional test to try and recover or shake it off or whatever.
Yeah. So, very well done. At 12th Circle, a place I've never been to in my life, the adept the air sailor finally gets a +4 total to their physical defense. They also get another recovery test per day, and their discipline talent is Rally. This one's new.
Yep, this is another new one. Rally allows the air sailor to inspire their companions. They indicate who they wish to target with it, make a test, and compares the result of the test to the highest social defense amongst those they selected. If successful, each target that is conscious can make an immediate recovery test. Basically allows the air sailor to give people the opportunity to heal themselves in combat. And it provides a bonus to that test equal to the number of successes that they scored on the rally test. So the higher that they roll, the bigger the bonus. The character does still need to have a recovery test available to spend in order to make that. It doesn't provide any bonuses, like any bonus recovery tests. If they don't have a test available, then they're out of luck. There's an additional effect. So even if they don't have a recovery test to heal themselves, they also ignore any modifiers as a result of being harried or knocked down until the end of the next round, which can be a
huge bonus.
Even like at a high circle, those penalties might not be a huge imposition, but you can target lower circle characters with it. This is the officer who is getting their crew to rally. I mean, this is useful for adventuring groups, but much like leadership or tactics, it is also a talent that is designed in some ways to work for a character that might be commanding a group of less experienced or less able individuals.
Yeah. This reminds me of the scene in the original Terminator where Sarah Connor's trying to get Kyle Reese off the ground after he's injured, and she's like, "On your feet, soldier!" So, reminds me of that. But that's me. Anyway, on to the Warden talent options, which cover circles 9, 10, 11, and 12. You get 4 of these if you choose. There's only a couple of new ones, but that's okay. Finally, the air sailor has access to Astral Sight, Blood Share, Cold Purify, Downstrike, Eagle Eye, Gliding Stride, Impressive Display, and Spot Armor Flaw. All very useful.
All useful talents. These are available at lower circles to characters that are sort of more specialized in those. Blood Share is available really early to cavalrymen, for example, but it is a talent that can be used not just with a mount, but with any friendly creature. So it would allow a high circle air sailor to help distribute damage that their crew might have taken and things like that. Astral Sight could be handy because of the sort of association with air and perception and things like that, which isn't a huge focus of air sailors, but, they are on ships and might be able to spot things. Eagle Eye gives bonuses to perception in terms of distance. It overcomes penalties associated with that. So all of these you can see, depending on the particular sort of style of character that you might be making as your air sailor would be more or less desirable. You get Downstrike, which is a damage enhancing talent. It's available a little bit earlier. It's at Journeyman circles for, more combat focused types.
Mm-hmm.
But where the air sailor might be coming down off the rigging or things like that, it does give them the opportunity to enhance their damage in combat. Stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. The two new ones available at the Warden tier for air sailors are Defensive Posture.
Defensive Posture is a talent that improves the adept's ability to avoid physical attacks. Again, similar to Lionheart, or Lion Spirit, rather. Excuse me. All that Defensive Posture does is it provides a bonus. It does cost a point of strain to activate it, but when you do, it provides its bonus to any test that improves physical defense. Things like Acrobatic Defense, Anticipate Blow, both of which are available to the Air Sailor. I think both of them are available one way or the other.
Yeah.
So that can come in handy. It also can be applied to Avoid Blow or Riposte, those active physical defense boosters to try and avoid being hit.
Mm-hmm.
So it's basically for an extra point of strain, you can give yourself an additional bonus to those types of tests.
And why would you not want that? And the second one is Relentless Recovery.
Relentless Recovery is one that we're probably going to be seeing a lot of in the course of this. It is a talent that boosts the character's natural recovery tests, so that instead of rolling their straight toughness, they roll Relentless Recovery when they're making their regular recovery tests. Mm-hmm. It does not stack with things like Fire Blood or other talents that heal that are powered by a recovery test. When you're the hour after combat and you are making your recovery test, it's a substitution talent, technically. You roll Relentless Recovery instead of your normal toughness.
Yeah.
But it's essentially adding your rank in the talent to your toughness for the purposes of making recovery tests.
Yeah.
Essentially, you can heal more quickly. Because as you get into these higher circles, your characters also tend to have commensurately higher
damage
health pools and can have a lot more damage. And so this does a little bit to help mitigate the fact that if you are really close to your unconsciousness rating, but you have a death rating of 100, and you have an unconscious rating of 103, your normal recovery tests, even boosted with spells like Heat Food or whatever, is still going to take a little bit of time to get yourself back.
Yeah.
This Relentless Recovery mechanically allows the healing to sort of kind of keep pace with where damage ratings tend to be at this stage of the game, but also just kind of ties into the idea of the characters, like heroes of this stature, can take more abuse and bounce back from it more quickly.
There you go. On to the Master circles. At 13th circle, and every discipline gets, like I said, a special ability at 9th circle and now 13th as well. The Air Sailors get Windborne Speed. You take 4 blood magic damage, make an air weaving test, and each success increases the travel speed of your group by 10%. This may affect vehicles no larger than a galley or no total of no more than 50 people on foot or mounted. And in combat, this increases the movement rate of all affected by 4. It lasts for 1 day, and then after that, the blood magic can be healed.
Yeah. At 13th circle, typically at 13th, but somewhere in the Master tier is where Morgan had a term for it, but each of the disciplines gets a defining ability.
Oh, nice.
This is a magical thing that they get. I don't think that's the term Morgan used, but basically a defining ability. Like, it is a unique ability that they get as a practitioner of the discipline, sometimes associated with blood magic that allows them to do something. Like in the Air Sailor's case, take a little bit of blood magic damage. At 13th circle, 4 blood magic damage really isn't a whole heck of a lot.
Not anymore.
And you can increase the speed of your group or a small vessel of some sort. Again, tying into the ideas of speed and movement that are kind of thematically linked with the Air Sailor.
Yeah, I love that one. And then you get a whole bunch of other stuff at 13th circle. They finally get a +3 to their total social defense. They get a +1 to their mystic armor. Their karma die increases now to a step higher and is now a D8
instead of a D6. that is an ability that is available to everybody. At 13th Circle, all characters bump from a D6 to a D8 in Karma.
Yeah. And then their discipline talent is second attack.
Yeah, this is one that is, I'm pretty sure, in the Player's Guide.
Yes.
Yeah, warriors and sword masters get it in their journeyman tiers, showing that the Air Sailor is not as much of a combat character as the combat characters. They don't get their second attack, like a just default standard second attack, until Circle 13. I think they get second weapon earlier than that, so they do have a second attack available that way, but they don't generate the number of attacks that a warrior or a sword master is potentially capable of.
Absolutely. On to 14th Circle, the Air Sailor finally gets a total of a +5 to their base physical defense from the beginning, and their initiative is now up 2 steps higher as well, and their discipline talent is the new one, Song of Battle.
This starts to get into the unique, powerful, interesting talents. Song of Battle, the Air Sailor sings, and they provide their Song of Battle rank as a bonus to any Inspire Others tests that they make. Inspire Others is a talent that is available at lower circles to troubadours and to air sailors that allows them to provide other people with bonuses. This just enhances that capability even further.
So at 15th Circle, the pinnacle, the thing you've been striving for this entire time, you end up now with a final +2 to your total mystic defense. You get a third additional recovery test per day. So now you've added 3 onto it over the course of your entire air sailing career. And your 15th Circle discipline talent is a new one called Concentrated Assault.
Great name.
Love the sound of. Love the sound of that one.
Concentrated Assault is another sort of teamwork coordination type talent. The Adept makes a test against social defense, similar to Rally in terms of what their target is. Each success they generate on this provides the affected allies a +2 bonus to all action tests for a number of rounds equal to their rank in Concentrated Assault. The Adept does not benefit from this talent, but again, this is a talent that can be useful in a group, but is also designed to be like a commander coordinating the defenses against an attacking group of Sky Raiders or something.
Yeah.
That their crew, they are so puissant and inspiring in a sense, and so good that they can coordinate and provide potentially notable bonuses to the defense of their vessel or whatever kind of circumstances might be involved.
Yeah. So I love they get to play like field general and point everybody, this is their weak spot.
It's the captain of the airship. This is when you're talking about Circle 15, there are not very many of them.
No.
Maybe a handful. Legendary commanders, they are going to be the captains of the flagships of air navies and things like that.
These are your MacArthurs, your Pattons, and so forth.
Horatio Hornblower to pull a more, I think, appropriate. Yeah. A more appropriate type of analogy reference there.
Totally. Absolutely so. But lest we forget, at 13th, 14th, and 15th Circle, you've got 3 long gaps in between. So here's your options. There's 8 of them, so choose wisely because you only get to keep 3. And most of these are new. Life check, not new, but very important to have as well. So I'll list them all off and then Josh will go through one at a time. Champion challenge, critical hit, disarming smile, fluid movement, second chance, soul aegis, and undermine.
Champion challenge, this is also available to High Circle Warriors. This allows the Adept to issue a formal challenge. We talked about this, I believe, when we were going through the quest stores, because I think this is available as a high tier power for a couple of different quest stores as well. But it allows the Adept to issue a challenge to the leader of an opposing group, magically compelling them to engage in a one-on-one duel. And if anybody tries to interfere with it, it imposes penalties and all sorts of funky stuff. If the target refuses the challenge, then they suffer penalties. Two opposing forces come to meet on the field of battle, and rather than have the forces fight it out entirely, each side has a champion that fights out to basically determine the outcome. Again, very, very high circle ability, so it doesn't come out very often, and therefore does not ultimately warp the way that warfare, broadly speaking, would operate in the setting. Because you have very, very few individuals that would be involved that would have this kind of ability. But if you have somebody of sufficient stature and legend, this is the kind of thing that absolutely can turn the tide of a battle in a suitably dramatic and legendary fashion.
Absolutely. Critical hit.
Critical hit is pretty straightforward. When you score at least 3 successes on a close combat or ranged attack, so any physical attack, for no additional strain, doesn't cost you anything, you just need the extra successes. You add your critical hit rank to the damage. That's on top of whatever else you might be able to do with those successes. You just need to beat that threshold.
Yeah.
When you get at least 3 successes, so you need 2 extra successes, you need to beat the target's physical defense by 10. Then you get the bonus damage. That's it.
Yeah.
Really
Not bad at
simple.
all. Yeah. Easy to help. Disarming Smile.
Disarming Smile is a social talent. This is basically you walk in and give the smile and hostilities cease immediately. That's it. And it basically calms everybody down enough to talk instead of fight. This could open up the opportunity to negotiate a peace or give people a chance to get away.
Nice.
In a more effective way than there's a lower circle talent that does something similar. Expeditious Retreat is not the name of it, but for some reason that's what's popping into mind.
It's not Winning Smile.
No. Winning Smile is modifies.
Yeah. Graceful Exit?
Graceful Exit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of. Graceful Exit. It is a kind of a more powerful version of Graceful Exit. In a way, it means that you don't just have to leave, but you can basically kind of force hostilities to stop long enough to maybe have something else happen.
Not bad.
It can only be used successfully once per encounter. If you use it to stop things long enough to then kind of surprise strike back, that's the way it works. It does also provide bonuses to any subsequent graceful exit rolls that might be made.
Yeah. Not bad. And on to Fluid Movement.
Fluid Movement is, again, just a straight rank bonus. By taking the strain, they increase their movement rate by their rank in Fluid Movement. They may attack opponents while on the move using the splitting movement option. The splitting movement option, if you use it, allows you to move, then attack, then continue your movement. But there's a penalty that's associated with doing that.
Yeah.
That's in the combat chapter of the player's guide. If you have Fluid Movement, you can do that without suffering the associated penalties. And so this allows you potentially to move, attack somebody. If you have enough attacks, the strain cost is for basically for each opponent that you attack using this. It basically allows you to move around a battlefield or scrum on an airship attacking multiple targets. Really suitable for if you're building a more combat focused air sailor as opposed to the sort of more social build. Increases your movement rate, which is really handy and allows you to take advantage of a combat option without incurring any penalties.
Very nice. 3 to go. Second Chance.
Second Chance is available, I think, to everybody. I think it is a talent that is available to all disciplines at this tier.
Looks that way.
Second Chance allows the adept to roll a test again. That's all. That's all that it does. Whether it was a failed test or a successful test, it's 3 strain. You can disregard the result, roll Second Chance instead, but you have to accept that result, whatever it ends up being. The interesting thing is that Second Chance is charisma based. So you could use it to try and hit again, essentially rolling charisma instead of dexterity, but you're also using your rank in second chance.
Yeah. Usually after you utter the phrase, my dice suck.
Yeah. To avoid like super gaming of this, if the second chance step is higher than the original step that you rolled, you suffer a penalty equal to the difference. You can still roll second chance, but you're capped out at the step of the thing that you were trying to do.
Yeah.
So you can't take second chance and boost it all the way and use it as a way of,
no, I got a better chance to do it.
I'm going to use this to roll everything
for 3 strain.
For 3 strain.
No, somebody was thinking ahead on that one.
And you can only use it once per round, regardless of what your rank in it is. So again, can be potentially useful, but not super game breaking.
I was going to say, hopefully not game breaking. One of my absolute favorite titles, Soul Aegis, which I know is the shield from Greek legend.
The adept makes a Soul Aegis test against their mystic or social defense, whichever is higher. Each success increases both their mystic and social defenses by +2. They sort of take a round to center themselves and boost their mystic and social defenses as a result. And it lasts for a number of rounds equal to their Soul Aegis rank.
Nice. Yeah, again, super useful.
Yeah, so like they've got, for example, they've got defensive posture as a talent option earlier, or as a discipline talent that allows them to boost, essentially to use increase the ability to boost their physical defense, and then this just boosts their physical, their mystic and social defenses.
Social. Yeah. So, Gerd...
and like a lot of these self-buffs, because we kind of had this show up in the companion, regardless of the result, this talent will always score at least 1 success.
Yeah, fair.
So, because you are spending your action to do it, you are guaranteed to get at least something out of it.
Fair. We'll take that. And the last one, Undermine.
Undermine is great. I think this is another one that shows up in high rank quest stores, so I feel like we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
The adept uses their inherent superiority, whatever that may be, to make the target feel inadequate. They roll a test. Each success reduces the target's social defense by 1 for a number of minutes equal to the adept's Undermine rank.
Nice. Yeah.
For 1 point of strain.
Simply, yeah, you're not as good as you think you are you? No, you're not.
For example, bulging muscles, good looks, or mental prowess.
Yes.
However, they are superior to the target.
Mind.
However they choose to do that. And they just reduce the target's social defense, which can come in really handy, again, if you're trying to use other things that target social defense, rival legendary captains and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Makes them more vulnerable to taunts or battle shout or concentrated assault targets social defense.
Yeah. So which of these do you think would be probably the most likely to be grabbed at 13th, 14th, and 15th circle? Just off the top of your head. Depends on...
Yeah, it would depend on what approach that you're taking of your air sailor style. I would say if you're going with like a more combat focused style, because you probably would have picked up second attack in your previous tier at some point. If you're going with like sort of a more combat focused, critical hit, absolutely. Damage boosting is great. Fluid movement, probably life check as well. If you're going with a heavy combat build, you want life check. It's again, typically you're not playing an air sailor just to be a combat type, but the air sailor can be particularly suited to a kind of like swashbuckly, not as combat focused as a swordmaster type character. But if you're going to be going with a more combat build, perhaps because your group does not have a whole lot of combat focused characters who will very easily at equivalent circles be a lot more impressive in combat than the air sailor would be. But if you've got more of a group that's got a lot more specialists and stuff, and you may be using your air sailor to be more of a combat leader, field commander type, then those would probably be the ones that I would go with. If you're going with the more social aspect of things, Disarming Smile, Undermine, and probably Soul Aegis,
Yeah.
because those boosts to your mystic and social defense can be particularly helpful. But I mean, regardless of your build, the choices that you make at this point in your character's career will really be shaped by what the rest of your group is doing and what your objectives are and what's happening in the game at the time.
Yeah. I figure by 13th, 14th, and 15th circle, you pretty much have laid down the foundation of your path, and you're just kind of rounding out the edges now at the final plateau, per se.
You know, and you could very easily, again, depending on what's going on, go with a mix of things. I mean, I could very easily make a argument for Soul Aegis being really, really handy for a combat-focused type.
Oh, yeah.
It gives you defense bonuses, particularly mystic and social defense bonuses, which are targeted more often by ranged type attacks.
Yep.
Where the Air Sailor is much more of an up-close and personal combatant. Having bonuses to those, like being able to more easily shake off spells and whatnot, can be particularly handy.
Well, yeah, the fear and intimidation as well, just for the social defense.
I could see trading that maybe for fluid movement.
Yeah.
For example.
Yeah.
Second Chance is nice. It's incredibly useful in some ways, but I also feel like it is the weakest of the options there. At that point in your career, you can probably make a better case for taking almost anything else.
Fair. It's nice to have.
Yeah, Second Chance is a little bit of a legacy talent from previous editions. I think it's something that existed all the way back in first.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of carried forward as a result of that. But I think Morgan's work on the higher circle talents and making them better and making more options available, particularly at the master tier, makes Second Chance kind of I would not have a problem if somebody wanted to take it. I just personally, looking at those lists, it's like, yeah, Champion Challenge, maybe not. But
yeah,
like Critical Hit, all of those are cool and potentially useful.
Absolutely. And like I said, it rounds off everything nicely at the apex of your career as an air sailor. And so that just puts the finishing touches on the decorated career that you've had so far. This should enhance it nicely.
There you go. Kind of an overview of what the upper tier air sailors look like and the things that are available to them. We're going to continue on with this going forward, not every week, but like every other week or so.
Yeah.
We'll be doing something similar for the others. And these will be, because we don't have as much to go in depth about with these particular episodes will tend to be a little bit shorter, which is fine.
That's okay. It's the dot over the I of the previous episode, as they should be. So, any final thoughts on the Air Sailor, or should we just wrap things up now?
I think we should just wrap things up.
Fair enough, folks. Time for you to go sail away into your legend.
Good night.